Welcome to Spark Starter, the podcast dedicated to sharing stories that ignite female entrepreneurs into action. I'm your host, Elizabeth Goede, and I'm here to fan the flame of your entrepreneurial spirit. Each week, we bring to you the inspiring stories of women trailblazers from around the world who have sparked change in their industries, powered their ideas into thriving businesses, and pioneered their way to success. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a startup enthusiast, or a seasoned business leader, join us as we delve into the journeys of these incredible women whose tales will surely ignite a spark in each one of us. Today, we have an exceptional woman entrepreneur with us who has fearlessly transitioned from the world of education to the realm of coaching. Dr. Naomi Hall is the dynamic owner of NRH Dynamic Holdings and a true trailblazer in her field. With an impressive 18 years in education under her belt, Naomi took a leap of faith and embarked on a transformative journey as an entrepreneur. Her mission? To serve achieving, driven professionals, tongue twister there. Her mission to serve high-achieving, driven professionals who find themselves overwhelmed, overworked, and stressed out. As a stress and burnout coach and speaker, Naomi empowers her clients to build a solid foundation of stress management, enabling them to love their lives and their careers with renewed passion. Welcome, Naomi. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and to just be able to share about my experience.
And for anybody else who has not sort of seen my Facebook post today, I have a little eye infection. So I am tuned in today with my shades. So I apologize that you're actually getting to see all the behind the scenes because of the reflection, but it is better than seeing what's underneath these glasses. So with that being said, Naomi, it's such a delight to have you on. I love that you're sort of making this transition from education into coaching. When we really think about it, there's a lot of similarities there. But my question is, did you go directly into education? Was that the career you went into from the beginning?
It was. I am one of those rare people who went to college for what I did and stayed in it. So I went to college, I got my bachelor's in composite science education, and I started teaching right away. So
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Well, I love that. And obviously you have a doctor associated with your name. So I'm assuming that means you have your PhD. Is that correct?
My EDD. Yes.
Your
my
EDD.
doctorate in
Okay.
educational leadership. Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
fantastic. So talk to me a little bit about what kind of education did you do? Were you always in sort of a college level? Did you teach, where was your teaching journey?
Yeah. It was pre-K through 12 mostly. And I taught in private school. I taught in public school. I mostly taught science because that was my first degree. So I also taught in a small private Christian school. So I taught a lot of different things. If you name it in science, I've probably taught it. There's only a couple of science subjects I haven't taught. I've taught some math courses. I've taught computer. I've taught study skills. I even led the junior high choir one year. Yeah. So,
well, I think it set you up for what you're doing now. That's for sure. Having all those balls in the air.
Yeah. So pretty much K-12 teaching, administration. I was an assistant principal. I was a curriculum coordinator. So school administration, district administration. But mostly pre-K through 12 is where I hung out. When I was teaching, it was mostly high school. I started in middle school and moved more to high school. So yeah.
Fantastic. And what would you say, like looking back on that, just purely out of my curiosity, what was your favorite science subject to teach?
Oh, I loved chemistry and physics. Love that. Physics was, it's just how things work. It's how things work. So like labs were so fun because like I would take the kids outside to play with like remote controlled cars and marble tracks and whatnot. Chemistry again, it's how things work. It's the makeup of the world. And of course, I mean, they're high schoolers, so you got to make it interesting. So anything that explodes or has flames, we were doing it. So yeah, I loved chemistry and physics.
Okay,
Yep.
I love all of that. And I think what's really interesting is how you keep saying it's how it works, how it works. And when you think about that is sort of like this transition into the coaching side. So what was sort of that catalyst that pushed you from deciding to go from education where you have students and your students, if you taught K through 12, I mean, you're talking like you ended educating at 18, 19 to coaching. And I'm assuming with coaching, you're doing more of adults. So where did that interest come from, or what was the catalyst?
So I almost want to say I didn't choose it, but at the same time I did. So for one, education is a stressful field. And so I burnt out a couple of times for different reasons, had to fight my way back. I didn't have resources, so I had to figure it out on my own. What I do didn't exist. So I had to like figure out who I could work with, who could help me, what tools, all of that, to figure out how to stay in a career that I love, but was like sucking the life out of me. So I do that. I earned my doctorate while working, while sick. So I battled chronic Lyme disease most of my career. And I worked full time through that. I was extremely sick. So I went for my doctorate, working full time, going to school full time, and very, very sick. So I had the Lyme and I had some other things that I was dealing with at the time. So I don't recommend picking that path. Sure. A little challenging. But like once I had my doctorate, I knew I wanted to go into administration. I wanted to work with the teachers. Like I love teaching. I love teenagers. I still love teenagers. I actually am a martial artist. And so when I train with teenagers. I train with adults as well, but we have mixed classes. I love working with the teenagers. I love working with the kids and training with them. So I knew I wanted to move out of the classroom and work with adults. I wanted to help the teachers. I wanted to help them be their best. And I really struggled to get out of the classroom. I couldn't get where I wanted to go. I could get there interim. They would let me fill every interim position I wanted while paying me peanuts to do it while I continued to do my regular job. Anytime I applied for a full position, I didn't get it. So this was a couple of years of this, of like trying to get into a position, a lot of turmoil, a bit of toxic environment in there as well, being lied about and things. And so I started looking outside the district, and I didn't really want to be a curriculum coordinator. That's not what I was looking for, but that was what was open at the time. And so I was like, all right, fine. I applied to it because also the bonus of those positions was they were 30 minutes closer to my house because I was driving an hour one way to work.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, hey, it's 30 minutes closer. Can't be that bad. So I got a job as a curriculum coordinator, and actually it was a district position. And I was like, oh, I was only looking for like assistant principal, but all right, fine, whatever. I'll be a district administrator. So I got the position. It was fabulous. I loved it. I was like, actually, it's not bad. I actually really like this. But also knew it was a little bit limited in career path because I don't want to be a superintendent.
Right.
Don't. So April came, it was October that I started that. April came and I had my annual review, and I walked in and they go, well, these conversations are always really difficult. So I'm just going to say it. We're not renewing you. And I was like, pardon? Like, it was totally out of the blue. I had no clue this was coming. There had been no conflict, nothing. I hadn't written up. I hadn't had any issues with parents, teachers, administrators, anything. So I was just flabbergasted. And so, of course, in my mind, if you're not renewing me, I've clearly done something wrong. Like, I clearly have not done the job well. And so I asked, I'm like, well, then what do I need to do for next time? Like, as I'm applying for jobs. And the response was, well, sometimes it just comes down to fit. Like,
yeah.
I don't think you're telling me the truth. And different things, when you're smart, like you pull the pieces together and like people talk and different things.
Right.
I was like, it's money and politics is what it is. It has nothing to do with me and my job performance. So in the midst of that, it was about 3 years of like trying to get into administration. I'm finally there. And then I'm told I'm not. I had toyed with the idea of starting a business, but I just didn't know what to do because I was like,
Sure.
there's so many things I love, so many things I can do, but what
Right.
should I do? I'm like,
Right.
So I just kind of stayed in the system. But at that point, this was my second time in my career being laid off. And of course, they don't call it firing you, but your only option is to submit your own letter of resignation. Otherwise, they
Yeah.
do fire you. So,
Right.
like, I have no options.
Right.
So a friend called me and she was like, listen, if you start your business, we'll support you. And I was like, oh, like, you're serious. I was like, okay, like, I need to think about this. And as I'm sitting there in my office, I'm like, the recovering educator. Like, that's who I am. Like, I am recovering from the stress, the politics, the burnout,
Right.
all of this stuff that goes on in
Right.
education. And so I was like, I want to help. So I originally started my business to help educators and provide the resources for them that I didn't have when it comes to stress and burnout, because educators are not provided with that. They're told, like, wear jeans, do some self-care, go get a pedicure, go get a massage, but they're not given the true support that they need to deal with the stress that they're under in their situation. And so I've expanded it from there to professionals, as you said, like high achieving, driven professionals, because like those of us with driver personalities drive ourselves to burnout. And so that's the type of professional that I work with to say, hey, you don't have to leave your career. Like if it's time for you to leave and shift careers, that's fine. I work with you on that as well. But you don't have to leave. You can heal. You can find solid ground again and stay in the career that you're called to, that you're passionate about. And so that's really where my business started, was out of me losing my job.
Yeah, I mean, what a Phoenix story, I guess I'm going to call it, right? I mean, it's like some people could take the firing as like, you just want to curl up in a ball and get in bed and figure that out later. And then you have someone like you that's like, listen, I'm going to like figure it out. I'm going to decide what it is that I have experience in, what I have an interest in, and parlay that into a new business, which is fantastic. And that's even why we're here today.
Yeah. It was kind of like, you won't give me the job I want, so I'm going to make my job.
There's a lot of truth to that too. I always talk about it as sort of like, some people are meant to be house cats, right? Like they're meant to sort of go to the same place. They're meant to sort of be in an office or a cubicle every day. And then there are people like me and like you that are more like wildcats. We want to be able to sort of like go out and stretch our legs and do the things that we want to do the way that we want to do them. So Naomi, tell us about NRH. I don't know why that is a tongue twister for me. NRH Dynamic Holdings, and tell us a little bit about what that encompasses. So what are the types of things that you actually do with other high achieving professionals?
Yeah. So I'm a stress and burnout coach and speaker. So when I work with professionals, I'm helping them build a solid foundation of healthy habits so that they can manage the stress. So I talk about 5 foundations of stress management. 4 of them relate to your body. One of them is your mind. That mind one is as big as these 4. So often, I think there's some misconception about stress management. I think there are a lot of misconceptions of, well, everybody's stressed. I'm like, nope, not true. Like, because you can be in a super toxic situation. And I've been in a couple of different toxic work environments, and you will see one person who is just burning out. They're crushed under the weight of it. They're on an emotional roller coaster. And you look down the hall in the exact same environment, and you see somebody else who is thriving. So it's not the stressful environment.
Right.
It's not. There's something else at play. And then another misconception is, well, I already know those things. Like what you're telling me to do, I know I should do those things. And then my question is, well, are you doing them?
Right.
Because you're probably not. That's where I come in.
Right.
I help you to set up those those small steps. So it's looking at movement. Are you working out? It's looking at nutrition. How are you fueling your body? Because if you're not moving your body, your mind is not healthy.
Yeah.
Like a big piece of stress management is your physical activity, fueling your body. What you fuel your body affects how your mind and emotions are. So I can think, and it's like about a 72-hour kind of lag. If you're feeling crummy, think about how you've slept, eaten, moved in the last 72 hours. And you think, well, like over the weekend, I did this and that, and I ate this junk and that junk, and I had pizza and I had ice cream and you went to the carnival. And come Monday, you're like, oh my goodness, I feel like garbage. Like, well, that's because of what you put in your body. And then it's looking at sleep. And people are like, oh, I'm in bed 8 hours. Like, but are you getting quality sleep? Are you staying asleep? Are you setting your body up for quality sleep? One of the things that just, it kind of drives me to improve my sleep is knowing that the top performers in the world, like you look at any field, the most successful people in the world, the majority of them are getting 8 hours of sleep a night. And you can't tell me that the most successful people in the world have less to do than I do.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me that they have more time in their day. Like, a lot of these people are running international companies. They're, they are traveling around the world speaking. Like, that's exhausting. So they're getting 8 hours of sleep a night. So sleep is key. And then hydration. Like, are you drinking your water? So in the field of education, and I know it's very similar in like the medical field, like I can't drink during the day. I don't have time to go pee. I'm like, you got to figure out a way to make it work. Like, you got to drink your water. So like, that's the body part, taking care of your body. Like, we know, I know I should move my body. I know I should get sleep. I know I should drink my water, and I know I should eat my vegetables. But are you doing those things? And if you're not, let's take the small steps to get your body where it needs to be so it can be at its best. And that's kind of where my journey with this started, was deciding that I was taking back control of as much as I could in regards to my health, because I battled chronic Lyme for so long that I didn't have a choice. It was just survival. But when I got to the point where I had a choice, I was like, I am taking back every single piece I can so that I can thrive. But then it's your mindset. And that's the piece where it doesn't matter what your external stress is if you don't address the internal stressors. And so that's what we look at, of what are the stories that you're telling yourself? What are the words that you are speaking over yourself, your life, your work? Because your words are so important. And so often I think it's called confirmation bias. Whatever we say, our brain hears it and looks for proof.
Right.
So if you say, oh, it's Monday, it's going to be horrible. Do you know how your Monday's going to go? It's going to be horrible.
It's going to be horrible.
Yeah. Like, your brain is looking for it. And like, just a concrete example of this is when you buy a new car, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere.
Right.
Because your brain it's not that everybody bought the car. Those cars were already there. Your brain is now trained to look for it, because your brain says, oh, we own this car. This is the car we need to look for. So it's spotting it everywhere. So the words that we say really, really matter. And so that's some of the work that I do in the mindset side is, what are your stories? What are you telling yourself? If you're telling yourself you're constantly stressed, your brain is going to look for proof that you are stressed.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, it's certainly, so what was so I got, the first one was movement. The second one was nutrition. I'm just recapping these. Third was sleep. Fourth was hydration. And then the mindset is, what's the mindset one?
Mindset is the fifth one. Working on your mindset.
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't have another, just mindset. Okay, great. Excellent. So we've got the 5 keys of how we help manage our stress. And also, just to recap, it's you got to look 72 hours behind you to figure out what it is that has impacted how you're feeling today. So I think those are all really, really key and important pieces for us all to keep in mind. Certainly, as being a business owner, I think that it's very easy. It's interesting. I'm a brand and marketing person by background. bias is certainly a huge part that can work for and against, sort of in that industry. So I love that you're bringing that up. I love you're talking about it from a mindset perspective and about how, if you like pre-program yourself to say things aren't going to be good, they're not going to be good. And you're going to see that they're not good. Even if you have 100 good things that happen around you, you're still going to see the bad. So I really appreciate and love that, that entire mindset, and being able to give that to people in bite-sized pieces that they're going to be able to action. So that's, gosh, what an awesome melding of a teacher who actually understands how to educate, combined with somebody who actually has the experience and, knowledge to understand sort of what goes into like one of the most crippling things that I think business owners have, which is this idea of like being overstressed, burnout, that leads to burnout and ultimately either ends up, impacting their business. It can end to them closing their business, etc. So it's certainly, you play a really, really important role.
Yeah.
So
and business owners are driven.
They have to be, otherwise they're definitely not starting a business. I mean, it takes a lot of work to start a business.
Yes,
So Naomi, when you look at the difference between, working in the education system and then, having your own business, what do you think has been the biggest difference between those two?
Oh, I think a lot of it has been on the personal level, and like, I had to do a lot of work recently. I went through a transformational leadership program that was no other word for it than transformational. It was
it fulfilled on its promise. Excellent.
It did. And I have to say, it's a phenomenal training, unlike any other I have ever experienced, and it's immersive and experiential. And it brought me face to face with limiting beliefs, fears, and where those came from. And some of the things that I've really had to face in business is I came out of a system where you have to prove your worth constantly. And you have to prove your worth to earn a certain amount of pay that it's not even worthy of what you're doing. I far outworked what I was being paid. But I have this many years of experience, so I should be on this step. I have this number of degrees. That's part of the reason I have 3 degrees. I have this number of degrees. So, and that's also part of why I was let go. It's because I'm an expensive person because of 3 degrees.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Like always proving like I have this many hours, I have this many years, I have this many degrees, I should be paid this amount, and always having to prove yourself. And then coming into business, and like in education, you always know where your paycheck's coming from.
Sure.
I have a job, paycheck's coming, it's certain.
Right.
Well, now the paycheck depends on me having work.
Right.
And now I set the prices.
Right.
And I have had to work through, I can actually ask that price for my services.
Yeah.
Like it's actually worth that much. Like it's a totally different world. And like people are like, you should be charging this much. I'm like, I should be charging what? Because it's such a different, like, it's so shoestring in education of like, well, there's not money in the budget. You can't have this. You can't have that. Nope. We can't do that this year. Nope. This will have to wait till next year. Nope. You can't have that. Nope. You can only order this much. And then like you're buying your own stuff and all of that, to like trying to figure out pricing, trying to figure out what I'm doing. So that was a big piece of learning to stand in my value, worth, and confidence aside from any outside validation. I'm worthy. End of sentence. I'm worthy.
Yeah.
And I think many women especially can relate to that of I am worthy, independent of what anybody else says, independent of what I am paid, independent of if anybody hires me, independent of reviews, independent of you name it, I am worthy. And so working through that piece, I think entrepreneurship, it's a very big personal development journey.
Sure.
You're running a business, but there's so much personal development that goes into it. And actually my start into entrepreneurship was through multi-level marketing.
Oh, really? Which company?
I'm with Body. I'm actually still with them. Body, which used to be Beach Body.
Yep.
So that got me started. And the funniest thing is, so you have to do all kinds of professional development in the world of education.
Yeah.
To me, I was like, I'm just jumping through hoops. Like, none of this actually makes me a better educator. I'm just checking off boxes for you so that you'll give me my license. When I got into network marketing, and I don't understand why, but network marketing, I think, is the only industry that has figured this out. And they promote, it doesn't matter the company. It does not matter the company. I think it's industry wide in network marketing. You are asked to do personal development as a network marketer because you have got to grow as a leader. You've got to grow as a business owner. You have to grow in what you're doing. And so they're always encouraging you to I was like, where on earth was personal development the 18 years I was in education? Where was that?
I worked in the corporate side of Amway for years. So I know all about that, and I know all about the benefits of what network marketing does beyond sort of making it a business opportunity. I do think it gives you entrepreneurial skills, and certainly gives you a business degree that then you can parlay into other things if that turns out to not be the type of product or industry that you want to stay in. So I totally understand what you're saying. I totally agree. And, I think it's also like where we put the value in those types of things when they're offered to us. Like, depending upon the size company that you're in or institution that you're in, a lot of times there are opportunities where they will give you the option to get some form of professional development. You can go to leadership, or you can develop computer skills, or whatever that is. You have the option to be able to get those. But a lot of people are like, I don't see the value in that. I don't want to add something else to my workload. Like everybody creates all these excuses, but what you don't understand is that's basically like free items to add to your resume. Do you know what I mean? It's like free other things and opportunities and advancement. It's sort of like when somebody gives you options to be able to go get a more advanced degree. Is it more work? Yes. Is somebody else paying for it? Yes. Is that something that you can use in your future? Yes. Those are all yeses. I don't hear any no's there.
Right. Yeah. And you're right. It's like the school, most of my degrees were, most of my master's and doctorate were paid for me. I mean, I had to pay a chunk of them. No, my master's was completely paid for. I had to pay for a good portion of my doctorate, but there was money for it. So yes, I'm going to go do it. These are opportunities for you to grow as a person. And I think one of the most eye-opening things for me was when I went to Body Summit the first time. So I was already with Body, like it was January of 2022. I started with Body. April, I was told I didn't have a job come June. And I started my business. As I sat in that arena and I looked at the people down on the stage, this was so eye-opening for me. And this is where if you want to start in network marketing, start in network marketing. Like, do it. Do it. Go start it's the lowest buy-in in starting a business. And there's a structure there for you. And it does. It gives you your legs in entrepreneurship. I'm sitting in that arena and I'm looking at the people on the stage who are making boatloads of money. Okay. I'm just newly out of education. I knew that there was a cap on how much money I could make. It didn't matter how high I got. There's always a cap. So I'm sitting there and I was like, these people are making way more than I've ever made in my career, ever. But as I listened to their stories, I realized there is nothing different between me and the person on that stage other than they're 10 chapters ahead of me. They have faced the same struggles that I am facing. Many of them started out in debt. Many of them struggled to get their businesses going. They weren't an overnight success. They just didn't quit. And they're farther down the road than I am. So I can't compare my chapter 1 to their chapter 25. But looking at that gave me the realization. I was like, so there's no cap to how much money I can make. Like people give network marketing a hard time, but I'm like, listen, there's no cap on how much you can make, and there's no cap on how many people can be at the top. Like, sorry for
as long as it is an actual direct sales business, then you are absolutely right. It's, I think network marketing or direct sales or multi-level marketing, however you want to refer to it, it sometimes gets a bad rap because people, think about the pyramid schemes, right? And
Mhm.
those are obviously illegal, but a true direct
Right.
sales business, network marketing business, et cetera, those are legal businesses. And what separates them from being Ponzi schemes or, is, or pyramid schemes, is the fact that anybody has the opportunity to get to the top. Sorry.
Mhm.
That's my little segue of like, I spent a lot of time educating on proper things in the direct sales business. But I think where it's a really good parlay is certainly in the standpoint of, when you're an entrepreneur, when you have a startup, et cetera, there's this old saying, right? So like if you actually do a startup and you have partners, and there's this old saying of, so every day someone won't believe you can be successful.
Mm.
But as
Mhm.
long as one person believes, you will be successful. Like you will keep the company going. If you ever get to a point where everyone doesn't believe on the same day, the business is done because you
Mm.
don't have somebody to sort of propel that forward. And I think in the work that you do, what's really interesting about that is I think that it's really easy as if you are a solopreneur, right? You don't have a staff, or it can be very alienating also running the business because sometimes, depending on how big your business is, you might not have someone that fills every role to support
Mhm.
you. And sometimes you end up doing things that like you don't love. And so,
Mhm.
Naomi, I want to make sure I get through a few other questions for you. But my question is, what do you think the hardest thing has been about having your business?
The hardest thing, there's a lot of things I don't enjoy doing in the business, kind of like you just said.
Mm,
Like there are things like when you're doing it
mhm,
yourself, you're doing everything, and I'm not good at everything.
mm,
But if I focus on the right things, my business grows, and I don't have to be
mhm,
isolated as a business owner. So
mhm,
surrounding myself, like one of the things, I'm still part of Body, so I have that team that surrounds me, and
mhm.
that's some of the best women in my life,
Yeah.
are on my Body team. But then also, I've taken the step because of that training that I did and stepping into my confidence and my value and saying, "I belong in these rooms." I
Mhm.
and changing from I'm an educator to I am a business owner. I am a
Right.
businesswoman, and
Yeah.
taking on that identity, I've stepped
Yeah.
into networking. I've stepped into, I'm going to a few different, still testing out BNI chapters, business networking,
Yeah. Yeah.
and making those face-to-face connections with other people
Mhm,
who are doing the exact same thing and learning
mhm.
from each other and supporting each other and connecting each other with like, "Oh, you need
Sure.
to meet this person. You need to meet that person." I find that so fulfilling,
Yeah.
and it's also there's a bit of validation there when you walk in and
Mhm.
someone's like, "Oh, I have a connection for you." Somebody in that room
Yeah.
believed it.
Right.
Somebody in that room believed that what you're doing is worth telling someone else about. So I think it's really important that if you're on your own, that you find
Mhm.
people around and find people to support you. So I think uh,
Absolutely.
not having like doing it all myself right now and
Yeah.
not having like regular like working from home can get kind of lonely. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it also
Yeah.
can get kind of lonely.
Sure.
So making sure that you maintain relationships.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point and really good advice. It's like people work with people they know and they like, right? They know, like, and trust. And the
Yeah.
best way to do that is through sort of like those, it's like the reason why in marketing you always like really valued PR was because it was in essence like a third party endorsement. And that's what a referral is, right? It's
Mhm.
somebody else who's willing to say that you did a good job for them or, those types of things. So I think that those are really good points to bring up. So my last question for you is, Naomi, if people are like very interested in working with you and they want to learn more and keep the conversation going, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Sure. So my email is the recovering educator, all one word, at gmail.com. So the recovering educator at gmail.com. You can just email me. I'm pretty responsive on my email. But then also social media, I put a lot out there. I try to make it very, so there's a couple of things that I'm trying to change the conversation about.
Sure.
I want social media to be a positive place. So I curate my social media and I put out social media that is positive, that's of value,
Mhm.
that's of worth, and that educates. So
Mhm.
that's one of the things, like you go to my page, you'll learn about stress management, you'll learn about nutrition, fitness, all of that. And you can easily reach me on there. So I'm on, trying to think of what platforms I'm on: Facebook, Instagram. I'm at Naomi Hall Fit Educator. So if you just go search, well, Naomi Hall, you'll probably find me, Naomi Hall Fit Educator, and you'll find all kinds of great content on there. Please go follow me and learn. I share all kinds of stuff on there, and you'll occasionally, she's not in here right now, occasionally you'll see my cute dog. She gets on. So yeah, so please reach out. I would love to talk with anybody, answer questions, both stress and business related, network marketing related. And this is my second time in network marketing. The first company, it was good for a time, and then it was for a season, and this one has been for a longer season, and was really what propelled me into starting my own business.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love you talking about your experience with that today. And then the last question is something that I ask every single guest, which is if you had one word or a short phrase of inspiration that you could give to another woman that's looking to start or grow her business, what would that be?
Do it scared.
Mm,
There will always
yeah,
be fear. There will always be fears that come up. I'm like, whew, the eyes are tearing up. There'll always be something that comes up, but don't let that stop you. Let
yeah.
it cause you to think, but don't let it to stop you. And there was someone that I was talking to recently who was thinking about starting a business. And she's like, but I need to have this online. I need to have that online. I need to
Mm,
have that online.
mm,
I said, yes, but at some point you just have to rip the Band-Aid off and do something. You have to take the
yeah,
first step. So I'd say do
yeah.
it scared. Like, I think all of us, none of us walked into business going, I got it all figured out. Well, maybe we did, and then we found out we didn't have it all figured out. But for the most part, none of us started our businesses having it all figured out. It was, I literally started my business and had my 19-year-old nephew helping me because he had started his own business when he graduated from high school and was very successful. So I was like, all right, dude, help your aunt out. Like, what do I need to
It's funny. I think starting a business out of high school is actually like ignorance is bliss at that point. You don't know what to be afraid of there. And I think that it's almost like as we get older, we know all the things that we should have, or at least we think we know all the things
do?
that we should have in line before we start the business. And it's that old phrase of, perfection is the enemy of progress. And it's we many of us struggle with that need to be perfect, that need to sort of put that best foot forward. And so I love that. I love that sentiment of just get out there and don't be fearful and make it happen.
Absolutely.
So, Naomi, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute delight having you. We covered so many topics today in such a short amount of time, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to continue to follow you in your progress with your business. I also want to thank each of our guests that have joined us today, and each of our listeners who have joined us today. And I think these sunglasses are throwing me off for anyone that's listening. I had a little eye infection today, so I have sunglasses on, and they've been throwing off my routine, I think. Anyway, Naomi, thanks again for being a guest today. Thank you to each of our listeners who have joined us on the SPARK StartHer Podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure bringing you the uniquely inspiring stories that ignite female entrepreneurs into action. I've been your host, Elizabeth Goede, and on behalf of all the awe-inspiring women entrepreneurs out there, I encourage you to not only dream big, but to ignite those dreams into action. Remember, every spark can lead to an extraordinary fire. So keep the spark alive for today, tomorrow, and the vibrant future beyond. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to never miss a spark. Until next time, stay ignited.